No bias, no censorship.
I actually was personally quite offended by it.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton Tonight on TV, radio and online, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
So Dewbs and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
You've probably seen politicians interviewed 1,000 times, but we do it differently. We find out who they really are, we don't shout, we chat, and hopefully we bring a bit of light, not just heat.
Did you know Kate Moss?
Apparently.
Do you have a pair of jeans or a pair of jeans?
No, of course I don't. What would I do with them?
My friends are like, oh my God, what's she doing now?
Join me every Sunday at 6 for Gloria Meets, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am in not one but 2 of my very favourite places on earth. Point 1, I'm in a pub, yes. Point 2, it does not get any better than this because the pub is in Yorkshire. We are going to have a great time tonight. There is so much coming your way. Of course, the Bank of England have increased interest rates again to a whopping 5%. What on earth is going on? Do you think these lot are even fit for purpose anymore? Let's not forget the 2% target. I want to talk to my audience and to my panel about what it means for us and to you at home. How do you feel right now? Are you coming to the end of your term? Are you nervous? What is a solution? Is it more government help? And get this, tomorrow is the 7th anniversary of us voting to leave the European Union. Time flies, doesn't it? How do you feel about it all? Has Brexit been a success? Is it working? Is it too early to tell? Would you change your vote? There's lots to get into when it comes to that. And let's face it, we have so much going on in this country, don't we? So much of it feels like it's in a mess right now. And what are Parliament doing? They are spending a lot of time on Partygate. Yet more reports to come out, yet more police investigations. What on earth is going on? Do you think Parliament are being neglectful now when it comes to focusing all of this time on Partygate? Is it time to draw a line and move on? You tell me, and we'll get into it all tonight and more. But before we do, let's cross to Polly Middlehurst for the news.
Good evening, you're with GB News, and as you've been hearing in the last few minutes, we've just had confirmation from the US Coast Guard that they have discovered a debris field near the site of the Titanic in the search for the missing Titan submersible in the North Atlantic. A remotely operated vehicle has made the discovery. The information is now being evaluated by maritime experts, and we'll be bringing you a news conference live from the US Coast Guard in Boston Boston at 8 p.m. UK time. We know 5 people were inside that missing submersible. They lost contact an hour and 45 minutes into their descent down to see the shipwreck of the Titanic on Sunday morning. Since then, noises had been detected by aircraft scanning the area. And we know that Paul-Henri Nogelet is one of those people on board. His daughter said she hoped they would find him alive.
He knows how to react if there is a problem. And so I'm very confident about it, that he can manage good the situation. And I know now he's at the place he would like to be. Just I really hope they will find them all safe. I think we have to trust what they're doing and to be confident.
So one of the relatives of those on board remaining hopeful. We do not know what it means yet that a debris field has been found in the North Atlantic. As we said, experts are going to be re-evaluating the area and going over the debris that has been found. We're expecting more detail in a news conference, 8 o'clock UK time. That'll be right here, GB News. In the meantime, other news today, the Bank of England has increased the interest rate by 0.5 percentage point to 5% today. That's the highest rate in 15 years. It's trying to tackle ongoing price rises. The bank's governor, Andrew Bailey, said inflation's still too high and must be dealt with. But he added, if we don't raise rates now, it could be worse later. And the Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, said the government's resolve to bring inflation down was watertight. This is the 13th time in a row the bank has increased the interest rate. Speaking to warehouse workers in Kent earlier on today, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, said that halving inflation is still his top priority, but he said there's no easy fix.
I know how important this is. That's why I set it as my top priority. And look, it's not easy. Right? Rooting out inflation is not easy. It requires difficult decisions. Doesn't happen overnight. But if we don't get on top of it, it would just get worse and it would last longer, and that's not going to do anyone any favours. It's not going to be good for you and your families in the long run. And even though it means I have to make some difficult decisions, that's the type of Prime Minister I am, because I want to do the right thing for you and your families in the long term.
Well, the Labour leader, Sir Keir Starmer, has said today the government is failing people.
I think it was inevitable that the mortgage rates would go up today, but we have to firstly think about all those families, all those mortgage holders who are going to be really struggling now in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Now their mortgage is going to go up as well, and they're paying the price, they are paying the price for 13 years of economic failure under this government. We haven't had growth significantly for 13 years. Add to that the mini-budget last year, which did huge damage to our economy, and the failure of the government to do anything about energy for years that would have kept our bills down.
20,000 railway workers will go on strike for 3 days in July. The RMT union has announced industrial action on the 20th, the 22nd and the 29th of July. It's all part of an ongoing national rail dispute. The strikes coincide with major sporting events and with the Open and Ashes, both set to be affected. Detectives investigating the deaths of a family in West London have ruled a mother and 2 children were murdered. 3-year-old David Vodacek, 11-year-old Maja and mother, who was a 35-year-old called Monica, were found on the 16th of June. Officers forced entry into the property on Staines Road in the Bedford area of the city after concerns for their welfare. The cause of death for the 39-year-old Father Mikhail, who was found at the same time, is yet to be determined. Police say they're currently not seeking anyone else in connection with that inquiry. Just to confirm, that was Bedfont, not Bedford. Now, a man who allegedly smuggled thousands of people from Africa into Italy has been arrested in the UK. The 40-year-old Egyptian national was detained in London by the National Crime Agency, and if you're watching on television, you can see officers' footage right now. He's been questioned on suspicion of facilitating illegal immigration. And lastly, King Charles says the Windrush generation made a significant difference to the UK, praising his legacy as profound and permanent. 75 years after the first crossing from the Caribbean, His Majesty marked the anniversary by holding a service at Windsor Castle. And a £1 million fundraising effort is also underway to recover the anchor and put it on display. The HMT Empire Windrush sank off the coast of Algeria in 1954. And at Royal Ascot today, Valent Force has caused something of an upset, winning the Norfolk Stakes at an odds of 150 to 1. The horse, ridden by jockey Ross O'Brien, becomes the longest prize winner in Ascot history. Meanwhile, one of the King and Queen's horses, Desert Hero, won the King George V Stakes in a photo finish. Charles and Camilla looking ecstatic as they watch their 18 to 1 thoroughbred claim victory. You're up to date on TV, online, DAB+ radio and on the TuneIn app. This is GB News, the People's Channel. Back to Michelle.
Get any better than this, but for Martin Daubney, it gets even better because tonight is his birthday. The former Brexit Party MEP is keeping me company, as is the former Labour advisor and writer Scarlett Maguire. Welcome to both of you. Welcome to the people of Barnsley. Thank you for showing out tonight. And of course, happy birthday, Martin.
Very kind.
I was going to do a whip round with everybody, but we're northern and we're tight. We wouldn't have got you anything, but it wouldn't have raised much, so we'll gloss over it. We'll just wish you a happy birthday instead. You know the drill as well, don't you, on Dewbs & Co? It's not just about us here, it's very much about you guys at home. What is on your mind tonight? You can get in touch all the usual ways. The email gbviews at GBNews. Tweet me at GB News. But of course, big news today. And if you're tuning in thinking, where is the 6 o'clock press conference about the situation? That has been pushed back to 8 o'clock. There have been developments in that story and they will all be revealed at 8 p.m. on this channel. You'll hear it here first, worry not. But back in the UK, the Bank of England, they've increased their base rate again, haven't they? We knew it was coming. We was hoping it'd be about 0.25%, but no, they went way beyond everybody. They increased it to a whopping 5%. This, of course, is the 13th increase in a row. Martin Daubney, I shall start with you. First and foremost, many people are feeling quite anxious, quite worried. We had a period, didn't we, of very low interest rates for a very long time. Some people now saying that the Bank of England are failing. Well, they are. Who could say that they're not? The target, of course, was 2%. But many people now saying it's time for the government to step in and offer assistance. Is it?
Well, let's think about how we got here. You know, who would have thought that printing £500 billion of money, during lockdown would get us this record amount of inflation, giving money away so people don't have to work. £900 billion of printing money got us into this mess. We're now the 4th worst performer in all of Europe. We're not as bad as Turkey, 15%.
So are you blaming everyone that was at home on furlough for this?
I'm blaming the Bank of England for printing a load of money. Mark Carney blames Brexit. Of course he does. He blames Brexit for everything. If a comet
fat B
hit
word
the
in a
Earth,
bit.
he'd blame Brexit. The fact of the matter is the Bank of England got us into this mess, and now they're punishing us. Food inflation, utility bills. We're getting hammered in every direction, and now they're getting us in a pincer movement with putting interest rates up, so people are no longer living, they're existing. And that's the payback. The Bank of England, I think, is no longer fit for purpose.
What would you do then?
Get somebody new in. Get somebody in who actually cares about Britain. Mark Carney was the author of Project Fear. Now he's Mr. I Told You So. He's gloating over the fact that we're shafted. And I'm afraid it's just not good enough to blame the UK, to blame Brexit. Take responsibility for your own actions. You're the guys who printed the money. Now stop blaming us for it.
Scarlett?
I mean, I don't know why you're just blaming Mark Carney. I mean, Andrew Bailey blames all of us for it, for trying to get decent pay rises. So, I mean, it's just as bad. Actually, what we have to do is we have to do something. And what's so shocking, actually, is that yesterday, when Rishi Sunak was asked what he was going to do, I mean, answer came there none. And actually, we do need to think about the people who have to pay their mortgages. I mean, mortgages have doubled in the last year when you're renegotiating them. And so it's absolutely right that the Financial Conduct Authority is told to tell the lenders, these are people. The banks are making a lot of money, right? They're making a lot of money because of the difference between the loans, which are high interest, and all the savers know that we're not getting anything like that, right? So they're making money. So actually what the banks have got to do, and this is Labour Party policy, but it's absolutely right, whether you like it or not.
What? I haven't said anything. I'm listening.
You just tell.
I just thought I'd warn you. But I mean, actually, that some people need holidays, just off for a bit. I mean, mortgage holidays. They need to be interest only, and really, really important is the people who are having problems need to have their credit score left okay, and that's what we've got to do. The government can't bail anybody out, but what the government's got to do is to say to the lenders, you have to act responsibly.
Let's ask some of the good folk of Barnsley. Anyone want to come in on this conversation about interest rates? Do not be shy, everyone, because this is going to be the longest programme in history. There's someone over there in the dark, can't afford the electricity bills in Barnsley. We told you, didn't we, that times were hard. Can you tell me your name, please?
Hi, yes, my name's Sandra.
Hello, Sandra.
I'm actually not from Barnsley.
Oh, right.
I'm from Rotherham, down the road.
Oh, Rotherham, yes.
I have a question, really, about interest rates, being the hot topic, but listening to the news bulletin at 6 o'clock, it was mentioned there that you know, it's going to be a sting with the 0.5% interest rate rise for homeowners and mortgage holders, but actually it goes a lot further than that. It goes to the rental sector too.
It does.
Because most landlords are not in the position that they can just buy their buy-to-let properties for cash, so they have mortgages too.
They're passing it on.
To me, it's a double whammy in that it is mortgage holders, yes, of course it is, but also it's people who rent homes. And so that's perpetual. If rents are going up, mortgages are going up.
Indeed.
And wages aren't matching it.
I think a very good point there. It's not just about mortgage owners, it's people that definitely can't even get onto the housing ladder as well, that are stuck in the rental properties. Thank you for that. Any more comments on this base rate, interest rates thing? Yeah, here you go. Can I get a microphone to this chap? Hello.
Hi, Michelle. My name's John.
Hello, John.
I suppose one of the things I think about with Andrew Bailey is that, from what I understand, the Governor of the Bank of England has one job, and that is to maintain interest rates. Now, in this age of what I do, we have KPIs, we all have performance managed.
It's to keep the inflation, the target is 2%.
Well, he has one job, Michelle, yeah? And like you think of the good people in this room, we all have several. If you only had one job to do, you could probably do it. And what I don't understand is that you can do one job extremely badly in terms of controlling interest rates, and he's still in his job. But the other thing that I don't understand is, as well, is when he was asked how much he earned, he didn't seem to know, and it was £550,000. Now, £550,000 to do one job that you've done so catastrophically, and he's still in his job. I just don't understand how that can be.
Where's my old boss when you need him, Alan Sugar, with his "You're fired"? Interest rates. Anyone else before we move on? I'll come back to the panel. No, they're a shy bunch. I'm going to give them a good old talking to in the break. Don't you worry about that. But, you know, my concern in all of this is I understand that it is getting very difficult for people, and people are getting anxious as well, because if you're not, you know, you might be on a product now, but it's coming to an end imminently, and it's scary. And the flip side of it is when people say, you know, get the government to give us more money and to help us out, or to do a windfall tax on the bank and we'll get it that way, you're defeating the object. I don't agree with these constant interest rate rises, but the reason that they're doing it is to try and take money away from people, stop people having the money to spend, and hopefully then quash prices. If you keep giving that money back to people, it's never going to stop. we'll just keep going. The rates will keep going up. The money will keep coming back, and around and around and around we go.
Yeah, there's two problems. First of all, people like Sadiq Khan, Labour Mayor of London, wants socialist control of the housing market. He wants to step in and cap rents. Well, that's not the country we live in. We're not Cuba. You know, we shouldn't have the state intervening like that. It just completely won't work. It will bankrupt the market. The second problem is we just don't have enough housing stock. And we're importing 1 million people a year, net migration. There's nowhere for people to live. And as a consequence, you know, it's a supply and demand issue. Right, but and as a consequence, everything is on the consumer to have to cough up all the time. There's no choice.
Go on, Scarlett, tell him.
Actually, if we're talking about interest rates, I mean, I completely agree that we are not building enough houses, right? And I absolutely agree that we've got to do something about renting. But on interest rates and on mortgages, it's not about giving people money. It's about saying to people who are desperate, don't sell your house. I mean, this is what happened when I was younger. We had massive interest rates. People would go into negative equity. They'd sell their houses. I mean, there was a crisis. And what we're trying to do is to say, OK, look, if you're desperate, you know, what we need to do is you have an interest-only mortgage, you have a tiny holiday. We actually leave it, because actually as soon as you're selling your house and we are in negative equity, then actually everything goes down. It's not these are for people who really can't pay their mortgage, right? It's not about giving money away. That's the whole point.
Well, what do you make to it at home? What is your situation and how do you feel today? Because, of course, the jump was much more than many people were expecting. But the big fat beware, that has come up a lot already. We've not even got into this topic yet. Of course, it is the eve today of the 7th anniversary of us voting to leave the European Union. Where are we right now? Do you even feel like we've left? Do you feel that your vote was respected? Was it the right decision, the wrong decision? What is it for the future, the better or the worse? Your thoughts, and I'll see you in 2.
First and foremost, I am a GB News fan, and I was before I was working here. Just love the fact that we're asking the questions that a lot of establishment media won't ask.
With a bit of a twist, we not only want to inform you, but we want to keep you entertained.
It's worth the drive because you get in and the team's all ready and waiting, they're itching to go, and it's a proper little family.
GB News is the people's channel.
It's the audience that makes the programme sing.
We're giving our viewers and our listeners a voice. I see the thousands of your letters, tweets, emails, you name it, coming in.
Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it?
The establishment had their chance. Now we're here to represent you.
It's time for something different. It's time for GB News. I'm very patriotic. I believe in Britain. Our best days lie ahead.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Join us here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
I'm Andrew Doyle. Join me at 7 o'clock every Sunday night for Free Speech Nation, the show where I tackle the week's biggest stories in politics and current affairs with the help of my 2 comedian panellists and a variety of special guests.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights from 7 on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Nightmare commute. Kick it up a gear with me, Patrick Christie's, at drive time, 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News Radio. You can listen online and on DAB+, on the smart speaker app, and on the GB News app. And if you've got an Alexa, all you have to say is, Alexa, play GB News. We're also on TuneIn and the Radio Player apps. From the school run to rush hour, get revved up with me, Patrick Christie's, on GB News and GB News Radio.
What you get for breakfast is something that, if we do our jobs right, you will wake up to news that you didn't know the night before.
It's a conversation. It's not just me and Eamon.
We want to get to know you, and we want you to get to know us.
From 6, it's Breakfast with Eamon and Isabel.
Monday to Thursdays on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster is going around in ever-decreasing circles, followed by the media. Britain is broken. How on earth did we get into this mess? But more importantly, how do we get out of it? Join me at 7 p.m, Mondays to Thursdays on Farage, here on GB News. We will have open, rational debate. We've got to work out how Britain moves forward from this. Join us here on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain is watching.
Every Sunday from 11, join Michael Portillo.
There will be topical discussion, looking at the week before and the week to come. So kick back and relax at 11 a.m. on Sundays on GB News with me, Michael Portillo. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Dewberry, and we are out and about. We are live from Barnsley this evening, right through till 7 o'clock tonight, alongside me birthday boy Martin Dewbs, the former Brexit Party MEP, and Scarlett Maguire, the former Labour advisor and writer. Now, get this, time flies, doesn't it, when you are having fun. Brexit. It was 7 years ago tomorrow that we voted to leave the European Union. 17 million people voted that way. And let's be honest, it's not been kind of cohesive ever since. I would love to say that we had this vote and we all sailed off into the sunset, but we didn't. We know what happened next. The vote was contested, it wasn't respected, it was undermined at pretty much every single twist and turn. There was so much arguing and fighting, so many legal battles around it, but apparently we did leave. Some people in the audience were just telling me in the break they think we've left Brexit in name only, but notwithstanding any of that, what do you make to Brexit as it stands? Has it happened? Was it a success, Martin?
Well, first of all, 84,000 people voted for Brexit in Barnsley. I'd like to thank all of you for that, for having the courage and the fortitude to stand up for sovereignty and to ignore Project Fear, the mainstream media, the constant disaster we were told that the world would fall apart. We voted to leave the EU. And then when I got elected as one of Nigel's lads to go to Brussels, it was worse. It was worse in flesh than it ever was on paper. It was an absolute sham bureaucracy, a tin pot dictatorship, really. And getting out there was the best thing we ever did. Unfortunately, we had a Conservative government that didn't really do the job. So I was dispatched by Nigel to Leicester on the day that the withdrawal agreement was published, October 17th, 2020. I read it on the plane. It's only 72 pages. I was on with Matt Hancock. Do you remember him?
We do.
He hadn't read it. He obviously hadn't read it. He didn't know a thing about it. A brain like an aubergine, this fella. I could tell that before COVID. It's like, you could tell straight away on fishing, on Northern Ireland, on the level playing field, on taxation. It wasn't a Brexit. So the first thing was we didn't actually do a proper Brexit. They call us Brextremists. So no, the facts are the facts. We haven't actually left. And now they've squandered an 80-seat majority. They've absolutely squandered the opportunity to get this job done. They left the cat flap unscrewed, and Guy Verhofstadt and all of his cronies are going to come scuttling through if Keir Starmer gets into power. Keir Starmer, the people's vote champion, reversing Brexit. The entire political establishment tried to cancel your vote. And still, they won't stop. David Lammy, yesterday, was saying, let's revisit freedom of movement. Let's revisit a closer alignment. They're going to try and change your vote. They're going to try and cancel your vote. I tell you, if that happens, Nigel, can you hear me? I'm with you, mate. Let's go back to Brussels. Let's do it.
Is having none of it. I saw you shaking your head then.
If we're talking about Project Fear, I've just heard it, right? Project
Reality.
This is absolute rubbish, right? There is no question about us going back. We couldn't go back. Nobody wants to ever go through that referendum again. It was really, really nasty. It absolutely split the country. There is no way that we're going back. Yes, we need a decent negotiation, because at the moment, I mean, I don't know what the good things about Brexit are. I mean, it's certainly not working for anybody.
Democracy.
Right.
The people had their say,
right.
and they couldn't be stopped by the media and the political establishment.
That's great.
That means something. That really
but
means
what
something.
happened? What happened? So we were told that there would be £350 million a week going into the NHS. On the bus.
These people then, there's a lot of reaction. There's a chap there, they're not messing around. Look, where's the microphone? Can I get the microphone to this chap here? Come on, Tony. Here we go. Hello.
Do you think Brexit was a spanner in the works for the globalist plan?
Oh, do we think Brexit was there? I know exactly what you're talking about. Well, there's lots going on in this world. That is, when you join lots of different dots, there are lots of things that look slightly suspect and suspicious, I would say, to put it mildly. There's lots of other responses from that lady there. Can you pass the microphone to that lady with the glasses? Oh, come on, don't be shy now. I just saw you.
Oh, I hadn't intended, but
don't you worry.
A spontaneous response
to
what I regard as a very, very erroneous statement. I think my recollection is, although I wear glasses, as you've pointed out, Michelle,
the cool people do.
The words on the bus was, let's spend 340 million on the NHS. It was only ever a suggestion as to how this wasted money, which is how I regard it, could be spent instead and put to better use. Whether it has been or not is another matter.
So is there anyone in here, because Barnsley was 68% Brexit, is there anyone here that voted just because on the side of a bus it said 350 million to the NHS? Is there anyone, and don't be shy, is there anyone at all that said, oh, I don't know what to do, but look at that sticker on the bus, that's me in there?
Remainer myth, that was. A complete Remainer myth.
There was a bus. I mean, there was a bus. And all I'm saying is that there was a bus, and that's what it said. There were also adverts saying that the Turks were going to come in, right, which was not true. I mean, there is no question. What I said is it was a poisonous. Nobody wants to go back to that polarising campaign.
Do you not think there's any value at all in being ultimately responsible for your destiny as a country, to be able to do with it what you choose and the book stops literally with you? Do you not find that valuable?
Well, I felt that actually that's what was happening, and what we've given up is much more. I mean, what we've given up is proper trade with our nearest neighbour, right?
That we still openly trade with the European Union.
But actually, it's gone down incredibly. And what's interesting is it's also
one more comment. No, one of my audience members, someone somewhere, a chap. Did you just say, Tony? There was someone. Tony, microphone.
Yeah. I think Scarlett should reflect on who the nasty ones were in the Brexit vote.
Oh, I think
there was a lot of nasty models.
Anyone else? There's a chap there. Come on, next to Tony. No, you've just there. Look.
I'm Jeff.
Hello,
I
Jeff.
voted Brexit.
You've got a dog with you, Jeff.
Right, my white guide dog.
Oh, right. Hello.
I don't regret it. What we are seeing is a willful refusal by the government and the civil service to implement it well. With a lack of talent and imagination on how to do it well, even if they wanted to. Yeah. We have been let down by a lack of talent and a willful refusal.
Go on.
Wow. Talk there about a period of reflection. It's about to come your way. Whilst you're in there, reflect on the following question. Do you think that Parliament is being somewhat negligent now by spending so much time focusing on parties and trying to get the police involved and all the rest of it, when actually, let's face it, the country is in a bit of a mess? 0 and 2.
Like all families, we have arguments every now and then, but actually we agree on what the mission of GB News is, and that's the most fundamentally important thing.
GB News provides the kind of platform that lets all voices be heard. We don't hold back. We're free to say what we really think.
Just because some people who live in a tiny little Westminster bubble think that their particular story is important, that's not the most important story for me.
And often there will be difficult stories that you won't find on the establishment media.
Because what people think in the north of England may be very different to what they're thinking in the home counties.
We're going to carry on telling the world what life is really like for households up and down the UK.
We love to be in your car, in your kitchen as you're having your breakfast. Whatever you're doing, you are part of the show. If it matters to you, it matters to us.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
Britain's watching.
We're proud to be GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Patrick Christie's, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6. We tackle the day's news agenda like you've never seen before. It's high tempo, high octane, the most controversial topics, and the best guests. You will not be able to take your eyes and ears off it. I'm not afraid to ask the questions that you really want answered. 3 till 6 p.m, Monday to Friday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, on Sunday mornings from 9:30, taking the politicians to
to task and breaking out of SW1 to see how their decisions are affecting you across the UK. Bursting the Westminster bubble every Sunday morning, only on GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's watching.
Join us every night on GB News at 11 p.m. for Headliners, which is 3 top comedians going through the next day's news stories, which is exactly what you need, because when the establishment has gone crazy, you need some craziness to make sense of it. So join us 11 p.m. every night on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Dan Wootton. You can watch me live on GB News Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. And did you know that you can also watch and listen live on our website, gbnews.com. You'll always be up to date on the latest breaking news, as well as enjoying the best stories, opinions and shows. You can even join the debate under our live player as you're watching. So head straight to gbnews.com on TV, radio and online. GB News, Britain's news channel.
So Dewbs and Co, we tackle the issues of the day with real robust debate, both sides of the fence, battling it out with me in the middle with my forthright opinions and views. And often really interesting things happen because you start with a position and then by the end of the debate you find actually, well, I might not have thought about that one.
What we need in this country is 2 new political parties.
You should maybe think about doing a 2024 calendar. I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm keeping you company right through until 7 o'clock this evening.
GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's watching.
Well, let me start with an apology for you if you were hoping to see Michelle Dewberry in Barnsley today. If you stuck with it whilst the sound was poor, thank you for sticking with it. We took the decision here at GB News in London that enough was enough and the poor sound quality is something that our engineers needed to look at. So we are doing that right now. The guys are working under the bonnet and hopefully we'll be able to return you to Michelle Dewberry in Barnsley very soon. We do want you to be able to hear those lively views on Brexit so many years on. In the meantime, let's bring you up to date with the latest news story regarding that Titan submersible in the North Atlantic. Well, the news broke a short time ago that the US Coast Guard said they had discovered a debris field near the Titanic wreckage in the search for the missing Titan submersible. We're not really clear at this stage as to whether or not that submersible damage or debris field is on the seabed or indeed if it's on the surface. It may be a bit of both. We do know that an ROV, a remotely operated vehicle, has made the discovery, and the information collected by that ROV, which suggests that it is under the water and on the seabed, is now being evaluated by experts. But there is also some speculation by analysts at the moment that there is some wreckage, if you like, debris field likely to be on the surface as well. We'll bring you a press conference which will be coming live from the United States, the Coast Guard in Boston, that is, at 8 o'clock UK time. We're looking now at those Canadian aircraft pictures that detected via sonar those Morse code tappings or sounds that were heard, which appeared to sound out the signal SOS. That, of course, raised many people's hopes, and the search area was widened yesterday to 2 times the size of Connecticut, 76,000 kilometres times 2. We're looking now at pictures inside the submersible. I think that's the picture there of the CEO of OceanGate, whose submersible this is, that has gone down, the Titan it's called, raising his arm there as he's talking about a previous trip on that little submersible. We're looking at pictures that you can see there through the window of that submersible. Of course, daylight not penetrating down 4,000 feet, 4,000 metres, 12,000 feet, and very difficult to see beyond, I understand, the length of your arm. Back to those aerial shots there. Well, as I say, there will be a Coast Guard news conference at about 8 o'clock tonight. We know 5 people are missing inside that submersible. It lost contact with base at Sunday, about an hour and 45 minutes into that descent down to the wreckage of the Titanic. We know Paul-Henri Nargeolet, a French explorer, is one of them on board. Earlier, he was speaking with one of the news teams, spoke to his daughter, and she was expressing hope that the family were saying that they hoped that he would be found alive.
He knows how to react if there is a problem, and so I'm very confident about it, that he can manage good the situation. And I know now he's at a place he would like to be. Just I really hope they will find them all safe. I think we have to trust what they're doing and to be confident.
Well, that's the hope and the optimism that the rescue teams were certainly expressing very late on yesterday and certainly early this morning. And of course, the news of debris field found in the North Atlantic rather dashed those hopes as people began to talk about some sort of catastrophic implosion or explosion of the submersible. And it's just being reported on Twitter. I can't confirm these details for you, but widely being reported that there's been an expert that has said a landing frame and a rear cover from the submersible has been recovered. That is unconfirmed at this stage. It is just being reported by various news outlets. We will, of course, get clarification on that, as I said, at 8 o'clock when we cross over to the US Coast Guard in Boston, and they will no doubt have a detailed news conference for us. But it does, of course, mean that it is a sad ending to a story, it would appear, when so many were expressing hope that the end could be optimistic. Bring you more on that later. Now, the other big news today is that the Bank of England has increased the interest rate by 0.5 percentage point to 5%. That's the highest rate in 15 years as it tries to tackle ongoing price rises. The bank's governor, Andrew Bailey, went on record as saying inflation was still much too high and had to be dealt with. But he added, if we don't raise rates now, it could be worse later. The Chancellor, Jeremy Hunt, said the government's resolve to bring inflation down was watertight, perhaps an unwise choice of phrase given the main story that's occupying most people's minds at the moment. But it is the 13th time in a row the bank has increased the interest rate. Speaking to warehouse workers in Kent earlier on today, the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, said halving inflation was still his goal, but there was no easy fix. Well, I've got good news for you as far as going back to Michelle Dewberry is concerned. I understand they're standing by in Barnsley and they're ready to join us once again. Over to you, Michelle.
Disruption, then I do apologise. I think it was the Remainers trying to get in there and sabotage. I blame it on Scarlett. Did you put a global
conspiracy against
you? Well,
you.
there you go. It interrupted our conversation about Brexit, so it did. Anyway, keeping me company, the birthday boy himself, Martin Dewbs, the former Brexit Party MEP, alongside me, and Scarlett Maguire, the former Labour advisor and writer. I'm very disappointed, by the way, you haven't got your flag out. You told me you had a little flag.
So I just want to share with you guys.
That didn't sound quite right, that, but you know what I mean.
This is the flag that I waved when we voted to leave in Brussels. And so much, that's for you.
Can I make a request? Have a little wave of it, Scarlett.
Go on.
Go on.
Go on. I just think this is our flag, not the Brexit flag. That's all.
It is. It's all of us.
Yeah,
all at
it's
once
a unifying
together.
flag, not a dividing flag.
Well,
it
speaking,
should be.
It should. Yeah.
Speaking of unifying and dividing, shall we talk Partygate? Because let's face it, right, this country is in a bit of a pickle right now. We've just been speaking interest rates. Times are very hard for a lot of people. Crime is all over the place. You can't get in to see your doctors. Many people can't get on the housing ladder, and it goes on and on and on. The government has got a lot to do and not much time to get it done in, let's be honest. But what are they spending an awful lot of time about? Of course, the fact that many years ago people were having so-called parties during COVID lockdowns, and whether or not Boris Johnson intentionally misled Parliament. Of course, you've seen all the goings-on now. The report came out. They're talking, pontificating in Parliament about whether or not they'd give this fella a 90-day suspension, the fella that's not even there anymore anyway because he resigned, whether or not they're going to take his pass off him so he can't go to the subsidised bars, whether or not there's going to be another report about whether or not it was rude about the first report, the police looking to get involved about some weirdo mingle and jingle thing that was going on. Martin, When it comes to all of this, because this really does divide people, many people say these guys need to be held to account, people died during COVID and all the rest of it. The other side of the fence says, pack it in. It is almost akin to negligence now, focusing on all this stuff while the country is in a mess. Your thoughts?
Well, also the whole thing is just a pantomime. It's a distraction, it's a sideshow. And it's not only about trying to destroy Boris Johnson. I think that the person that the Labour Party fear the most, the comeback king, could come back and wreak damage. Now, I'm no fan of Boris, but who else is there? There's nobody else in the Tory party who could be an effective leader. Secondly, it's just thrown out there to destroy the Tory brand in its entirety. This is now about the Labour Party trying to just put a wrecking ball through the Conservative Party's integrity and honesty to basically try and get the next election in a cocktail. And what about Sabir Korma? He had a party in Durham.
Sabir...
He did it too. Keir Starmer was basically holding Boris to standards which he himself wasn't even obeying.
Yeah, can we say that the Privileges Committee, which looked into Boris Johnson, went through Parliament unanimously, and you might remember that the Conservatives have an 80 majority, right? So this wasn't about Labour. This was actually about people, MPs in Parliament.
There's only 4 people on that, the Tories.
Hold on. It went through. It went through Parliament with an 80 majority of the who was going to be on the committee and how it was. Then the committee went away. Parliament didn't actually have to deal with the committee for another year. All this thing about it's taken a lot of time in the press, right? It's taken a lot of media time, but actually the government could have got on with governing. There's been one debate, one afternoon, and that resulted in once again the
so do you
going
think
through.
That's a good use of the time, though, because
one debate, Michelle, one debate, right?
This has taken way more than just a few hours in one afternoon. This whole conversation. There's going to be another report now, Scarlett, about whether or not it was rude about the committee.
There is a report, right? There was a report done by the Privileges Committee that was absolutely outside parliamentary time.
The Privileges Committee, headed up by Harriet Harman, of course, who prejudged the outcome in tweets before she got this role, of course.
The Privileges Committee headed up by Harriet Harman, that was voted for to put her in charge of it by unanimously with an 80-seat majority. I mean, we cannot go on pretending that there's some Labour plot when actually there's an 80-seat majority of Conservatives and they voted for this to go on.
So you think this is a good use of time? You think it's all effective?
There's been very little time. Actually, all the time the Privileges Committee met, they met in their own time. It didn't take up parliamentary time. There have been 2 debates.
That's all. Open to the good folk of Barnsley. These guys know their onions. What do you make to it all? Hands up. Get involved in this conversation. It's the last one of the night. What do you make to it? I can't see. Is that a man or woman there? Can we use those words in this day and age? Am I offensive?
It's okay. Gender identity, I'm definitely male.
All right, good.
My name is Malcolm. I wouldn't have a clue how I'm going to vote in the next election. I'm a Conservative with a capital C, which means I have no time for the current brand of pseudo-conservatism.
Why not,
we
sir?
seem to be going through.
Why not?
Well, I don't think the Conservatives, they're moving, well, they're either Liberals or they're moving more towards the Labour Party. And I do agree, I do have to agree with Scarlett that I think the current problem, OK, Labour are bound to find any excuse they can to poke holes in the government's performance, but the truth is that the Conservative Party, they're a bit like the runners at Royal Ascot this afternoon. Half of them split onto one side of the course, the other half are on the other side, and there's a yawning gap in between. And that's why I think Liz Truss got hung out to dry. She was at least someone I recognise as a Conservative. But now we've got wishy-washy in his crew.
The economy.
And they've destroyed an 80-seat majority, and really, the only way I can see out of that is that we end up with 2 different parties or a whole new party to come out of this, because the Conservatives
make a very good point. Thank you. Tony, hang on. Tony. Oh, actually, the lady there, she's got her hands up. I know, we'll come to you in a minute. Don't you saying, what about me? I've got my hand up. We'll come to you in a minute. Go on.
Hi, Michelle. I'm Pam. With Harriet Harman, it doesn't matter whether she had the government, whether she should be actually taking part as the chairman. That was totally immaterial. She should have done the right thing, and she should have stepped down because she showed her bias towards Boris. But I'd like to ask Scarlett a question, if I may, Scarlett. I'd like to know, Labour are always after bringing the Tories down for Partygate.
So into the microphone there. Yeah.
What I'd like to ask Scarlett is, why does the Labour Party not want an emergency debate about these people that are coming over on small boats daily, filling all our hotels, affected all our communities, and wanting to do something about it, which is costing this government and us every day?
Two seconds, let her respond.
OK, if we had a decent immigration system, we would not be spending £6 million a day doing hotels. These people should be processed. We should find out who are the refugees, and everybody else should be sent home.
From coming here.
Well, they can't be stopped from coming here. There are all.
They could be.
And actually,
there are laws to do so, but we don't have the politician with the guts to do it. It's as simple as that. The Labour Party don't want to stop it. Yvette Cooper, the future Home Secretary, by the looks of it, is a refugees welcome, placard carrier.
Oh, come on.
She is.
Come on,
She
give
is.
me a break. Give me a break. Right. I don't know. The question was to me, what they're saying is the way to... there are three ways to stop it, right? One is to actually have a decent process that lasts weeks and not years, and so that people get sent back fast. Once people know they're going to be sent back, they won't come. The other thing is to then tackle the problem on the French coast, right? And the third thing is there is a massive immigration problem, right? There are people who are leaving countries because they are so dangerous.
Oh,
and that,
Scarlett, they're leaving France, Scarlett.
Coming from France.
Can I ask?
They're literally
hang on,
coming from
this,
France.
Wait a minute. This young man he's keen to get his point across. Go on, sir.
Thank you.
Do it into the microphone then, so the nation can hear you. Go on.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
What I believe is.
Go on.
The Tories, part of the Tory party and the Labour are totally against Boris because he got us through Brexit. I honestly believe that. And I also believe that Labour, during the Brexit, they didn't respect democracy, and I'd never vote for Labour again.
Oh, they've lost you. They've lost him. Hang on. Is there anyone else? Anyone else wants to chip in? Yeah, go on.
Hi, Michelle. I'm John.
Oh,
again.
you like this? You're getting into it. You are.
I feel like I'm self-identifying as your assistant.
Oh, yeah.
Totally agree with
better
what
than
Martin...
some of them I've got, I reckon. Anyway, go on.
Totally agree with what Martin said about, I think Labour are frightened of Boris Johnson because he's a proven winner. But often people say, well, who else would you have? I think there's a political titan in waiting, and that person is in that room. And I think he will be our salvation.
Titan in waiting, everyone. He's talking about the person in that room. There's a cleaner in that room, but I don't think he's talking about the cleaner. No, I do not. I think he's talking about the gentleman up next, which is Nigel Farage. You can put that point to him. Is he the leader in waiting, the next Prime Minister? Anyone else on this topic before we move on? Anybody? Don't be shy. Barnsley?
Type immigration policy.
And also,
where they close all borders and everything.
Give him the microphone. He's there.
He's talking sense, this one.
Go on.
Yeah, what about an Australian type policy on immigration? They have a total shutdown, black down on press, and they turn them back. There's no way they're going to get into Australia.
Why
not have that kind of policy?
He's talking about Operation Sovereign Borders. Operation Sovereign Borders, that's what Australia had. They had a turn-back policy. I've got to be honest, I don't think there's a politician in this country that has the chops, really, to operate a turn. Well, you can ask him that when he comes out. If he was in power, would he have the wherewithal to do a turn-back policy? Because the second you even start on that process, you will be immediately shut down by people saying, well, you're sending these people potentially to their death. That's why it never goes
The
anywhere.
fact of the matter is we're being led by the nose by lawyers, by charities, by NGOs, by Remainers in disguise who have taken over our political establishment. The blob is absolutely infiltrated.
There's a conspiracy.
But no, it's not a conspiracy.
This is all conspiracy.
The reality is we don't have anybody with the guts to actually say enough is enough. Nobody. And that's what's happened. And it's like millions of pounds a day.
I believe that there are refugees. We've always had that refugees can come to Britain and have sanctuary, right? And I believe that they should still be able
We've
to do
taken
so.
21,000 Afghans. 27 EU member states have taken 271. We do our bit when there's an actual
Hold
need.
on, the
People
Afghans,
coming on dinghies
Martin,
are not fleeing war zones.
Who are the Afghans? We really owe many, many more
And that's
Afghans.
why they're
they
here,
had
not the EU. People in dinghies from France are not fleeing a war zone. They're fleeing Paris. OK, Paris is horrible, but it's not a war zone.
Oh, come on, right? I mean, you're playing fast and loose with the facts. On Afghanistan, it is shameful what we did. Is we didn't try and get the people out who risked their lives to help us. The translators.
We've taken 21,000.
There were
the
many.
EU have taken 271.
Well,
We've done our bit.
But they were helping the British Army. They were in. When I went to Afghanistan, right, we had lots and lots of Afghans working in the British embassy. Those people's lives were in danger. It was many
that's
more.
fine. And we
I'm
have
going to
done
end
our
this
bit.
programme because
That's
time
the point.
flies when you have fun, everybody. I'm going to end with a show of hands, right? Let's just be absolutely clear. Before we leave, who in the room thinks that the Tories are doing a good job overall? 80-seat majority. Many of you would have voted for the Tories, perhaps for the first time in your life. A show of hands if you think that they're doing a good job and they would get your vote next time.
Oh my God, not a single person.
Not a single solitary person.
Wow.
See, I find that absolutely fascinating. Is there anyone in this room that Labour next time would get your vote? That's even worse.
So
the
who
Lib
would?
Dems? Yeah, the Lib Dems.
They don't respect democracy.
The Lib Dems?
They represent.
Well, I can tell you one thing, everybody. Oh, they want Nigel. They want Nigel. Nigel is coming up next as well. But for now, I've got to say, it doesn't look good for the Tories or Labour or Lib Dems, I think, for this part of Barnsley. I think the next election will be absolutely fascinating. For now, thank you very much. I've very much enjoyed your company. It's Martin's birthday. You know what that means, don't you? Birthday boy buying the drinks. So for us, yes, for us, we will say goodbye because we have got a bar to go and attend to on Martin. So Scarlett, Martin, thank you very much. Thank you, the lovely people of Barnsley, and thank you at home. Nigel Farage is up next. I'll see you tomorrow.
Hello again, it's Aidan McGivern here from the Met Office with the GB News forecast. Increasingly humid over the next few days across the UK. That will translate to hot weather in the southeast, but in the northwest, increasingly wet weather. We see that divide across the UK emerge through the night, with spells of rain starting to arrive into Northern Ireland by the early hours and then pushing into western Scotland. Meanwhile, clear spells elsewhere, although some mist and fog to wake up to on Friday morning because of the increased humidity, and a fairly mild night for sleeping, 16 Celsius, for example, in the capital. Now, we've got that mist around first thing across central and some eastern parts, but it will soon clear. Meanwhile, for northern England, Wales, Scotland and Northern Ireland, some cloud and some showery rain. The rain most persistent over north and west Wales, northwest England, as well as western Scotland, turning to showers by the afternoon across Northern Ireland and not quite reaching eastern Scotland, where it will be warm. Further south, though, plenty of sunshine for central and southern parts of England and Wales, with highs into the mid to high 20s. Then, into Friday evening, some of that showery rain crosses central parts, so perhaps affecting the North Midlands into eastern parts of England, Wales as well, largely avoiding the far south and southeast, and some more persistent and occasionally heavy rain affecting much of Scotland. But wherever you are, it's going to be a muggy night with temperatures a couple of degrees higher compared with previous nights, 18 Celsius in some spots. And Saturday morning starts off with that warmth, but also with plenty of sunshine for the south and